that my spreadsheet is set up, I can start doing a lot of my calculations and functions. And I'm going to start by creating a table over here in our spreadsheet so that we have a place to keep track of all of those calculations we're about to do. So the list of everything that you need to find for your data set is in that worksheet, task number 3. So you can follow along on there to see what you type in here. But I'm going to start by just typing what I am finding. So first I'm going to do my minimum, then my lower quartile. I'm going to abbreviate that LQ. Next is my median, and then my upper quartile, I'm abbreviating that UQ, and my maximum. I'm going to skip one column, so go over to G3 and type in that next row. These are more of my measures of center and spread. I have my interquartile range, or IQR, my mean, and I'm going to swap the order here and do range first, and then mode. I skip over one more column, and now we're going to put our information about outliers. So first I'm going to do that equation that will let me find if I have any upper outliers. So that's my upper quartile plus 1.5 times my interquartile range. Hit enter. I have my lower quartile minus 1.5 times my interquartile range. And then finally, I'm just going to add a box on here for outliers so that I can keep track of them on the spreadsheet for myself. Okay, now to make this look a little bit more like a table, we can play around with some of the features in Google Sheets. So I'm going to start and just do this kind of column by column. So I'm going to start with my 5-number summary, click on minimum, hold my shift key, and click on this box right across from maximum. So this is where my actual value is going to go. So now I've highlighted all 10 of these boxes. If I go up here to my toolbar, the way I have the screen set up right now, we don't see the whole toolbar. So you need to click these 3 dots to see more options. And I want to give my table a border just so it's easier for me to see. So I'm going to click here on borders and put all borders around my whole table there. This part's optional, but I think it can really help you organize your data. So I'm going to do the same thing for those next columns. And there we go. If you want to add a little bit of color, you can highlight just those labels. Go to fill color. I'm going to make mine like green. I might also bold mine so it's easy to see. I'm going to do that for all of mine. Again, this part's optional, but it can really help organize your work. All right, there we go. So now we have our table all set up, ready for us to do our calculations. So this is where it would be a really great idea to have that worksheet out that has all of the Google Sheets functions instructions on it. I will walk us through how to do all of these, but honestly, it'll probably be faster to just kind of go off of that sheet. But what we're going to do is we are going to have Google Sheets do a lot of math for us by setting up functions for all of these different things that we are finding for our data set. So there are 2 basic ways that we're going to do a function in here. I'm going to start with minimum as a demonstration. So I want to click on my box next to minimum, double click so that I have my cursor. And anytime I want Google Sheets to do math, I'm going to start with an equal sign. That's what's telling Google Sheets that I want math to be happening here. So equals, and for minimum, my function is just min. So So this is the name of the function I want Google Sheets to run. And then I want to tell it what data set I want it to look for the minimum value in. So to select my data set, I'm going to do a parenthesis, and then go over to my response column here, which is where all of my data points are. And I'm going to highlight my data. So I'm going to click my first box, scroll down, hold my shift key, click my last box. And you can check that your work is right by looking at the label for your box. So this is looking really good because our last data point is in box C41. And we see right here that it auto-populated C41. And our first response is in this box here, C2. And that is indeed the first box listed here. Now all I need to do is close my parenthesis and hit enter. And Google Sheets has automatically found the minimum value for me. All right, sorry that this keeps popping up on the side. I'll get rid of that. Now let's do our lower quartile. So for all of my 5-number summary, I'm going to do a very similar process like I did for minimum, where I do equals, type the name of the function that I want Google Sheets to run, and then highlight my data set. For lower quartile and upper quartile, I want to tell Google Sheets which quartile I'm looking for here. So for lower quartile, remember that's going to be the first cut in my data. So I'm going to do a comma 1 after my highlighted data. And then I close my parentheses. If this ever pops up, some suggested autofills, you can just reject that and ignore. Okay, I'm going to keep going with a little less detail. So median, I'm going to be typing equals, the name of my function is median, highlighting my data, close my parentheses. For my upper quartile, same deal. I'm going to do the quartile function, highlight my data, and now because it's my upper quartile, that's going to be my third cut to divide my data into 4. So I'm going to do comma 3, close my parentheses. And finally, for maximum, I'm just going to do equals max. Make sure I'm highlighting my data set, close parentheses, and there we go. Here is our 5-number summary for all of the data from both A block and B block. Okay, not quite done yet. We have the rest of these boxes here to fill. So let's go now to our interquartile range. Remember, my IQR interquartile range is the difference between my upper quartile and my lower quartile. So this is an example of the other kind of function that we are going to use in Google Sheets. So I'm going to hit my equal sign so that I'm telling Google Sheets to do math for me. And I'm just going to use the calculations I've already found to find my IQR. So again, because my IQR is my upper quartile minus my lower quartile, I'm just going to select the box with my upper quartile, type a subtraction sign, click the box with my lower quartile, hit enter, ignore my autofill, and there is my interquartile range. All right, mean, again, these are all on that guide sheet, so I would follow along on there. My mean is my average of my highlighted data set here. Close my parentheses. And then for range, my range is the difference between my maximum value minus my minimum value. So I'm going to click on that maximum value, subtraction sign, click on my minimum value, and hit enter. All right, final one in this row or column is my mode. And we specifically want to really make sure that Google Sheets is looking for all of the modes if we have more than one mode in our data set here. So the name of my function is going to be mode.mult, M-U-L-T. And it's really important that whenever you're doing mode, you don't have anything in any of the boxes below the function, because if there's more than one mode, those are going to populate down and they'll fill the boxes below. So now that I have mode.mult, which will be looking for my most commonly occurring values, I'm going to do a parenthesis, select my data set. Oh, I forgot to highlight. If you ever make a mistake, you can just backspace and try again. There we go. Close my parenthesis and hit enter. So in this combined data set, our mode was just 4. There wasn't more than one mode, so that's why only one populated. In your data set, there's a high chance that you'll have more than one mode, and again, those will just fill in down below. All right, we are almost done with finding all of the values we need for task number 2. Let's try now to see if we have any outliers in our data set. And I have a feeling, looking at the difference between our median and our mean, that we will have some upper outliers here. So let's check that. I'm going to start again by hitting an equal sign. And I'm just going to use a function that looks pretty identical to our label here. So again, to find my upper outliers, that cutoff, it's going to be my upper quartile. So I click upper quartile plus 1.5 multiplied by, to get my multiplication sign here, that little asterisk, you just hit shift and that 8 key to get the star above it. But it's 1.5 times my IQR. So I'm going to click this box here, close my parenthesis, and hit enter. So any values in my data set that are greater than 129.7, I'm going to round this up. You go here, you can decrease decimal places. So we're going to call our cutoff 130 here. Any value greater than 130 is going to be considered an outlier in this data set. All right, let's check for any lower outliers. We probably won't have any of these, but we should do our check. So equals, I'm going to click now on my lower quartile and subtract this time 1.5 times my IQR. Close parentheses, hit enter. All right, so I'm going to go back to my data set. I'm going to say we don't have any lower outliers because we can't have negative time, so we don't need to look for those. But now I want to look for any values that are greater than 130. And I'm just going to highlight them in my data set so that I know that those are outliers. So here we have one. Jardine is an outlier at 263. Blew everyone else out of the water. To highlight again, click 3 dots more, and you can just go to this fill color. Armani is not an outlier when you put all of our data together. Madden is greater than 130, as is Hilton at 136. And everyone else is within our cutoff. Yami, I'm going to call still within our data set because she's kind of right at that line. But Yami is not going to be an outlier here. So we have 3 outliers. I'm going to just list them in our box here. 263, 150, and 136. The final thing that can be a good idea for us to do is just to highlight our next highest value so that we know what that is as we select our bin width. All right, there we have it. That was on the long side. Hopefully you paused as you went, used that sheet for help. But here are how we find all of those calculations for our data set. And we have completed task number 3.